So much is on the line every year in the duel in the desert, the Territorial Cup, but is one coach coaching for their job? It's another edition of Southwest Bias.
Get that stuff out of here. It's Southwest Bias.
Brought to you by Branded Bills. Elevate your brand like I am with Branded Bills, the perfect headwear and apparel. Use code PHNX for 20% off your first order. We're reaching across the aisle. We're shaking hands with the enemy. It's Sun Devils. It's Wildcats. Erik Ruby here with Saul Bookman, the boss man himself, checking in as Hate Week is in full swing. And Saul, I know you know this. We all know this. These two programs are in basically the opposite spots that we expected them to be going into this game.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think we talked about at the beginning of the season about some of the things that could and could not go wrong for both teams in order to reach that excellence point. The least likely was that Arizona was going to drop off, but then also the least likely was that ASU was going to do what they did. So it was just I don't know. The best way I could probably put it is just a series of unfortunate events for us.
Yeah, it kind of feels like you guys are in like your Charlie Brown era right now. Like the football just gets picked up right in front of you every time you're trying to kick it, and you're unable to get momentum. But listen, as bad as your season is, and ASU football has had really bad seasons before, when it comes into this week, when it comes into ASU, U of A, so much can change, right? Like you can almost salvage a season if you're pretty bad, especially if the other team's good, by upsetting them, especially with ASU this season. So much on the line. A trip to the Big 12 championship, like possible end of the year accolades like Skattebo and Kenny Dillingham as far as Big 12 awards go. There is a ton on the line here, but nothing more important than pride. And unfortunately, it feels like there's not a ton of pride surrounding the Arizona Wildcats for you guys right now. And a big part of that is Brent Brennan. And I'm going to start with the big question, and then we're going to go into the smaller questions beyond that. Saul, is Brent Brennan coaching for his job tomorrow afternoon?
Unless they lose 70-7, no, not a chance. Not a chance. I think he has too much support in that athletic program to be fired after the first year. And listen, there is this reality, as discombobulated as they've looked, especially on the offensive side. They have also been just riddled with some of the most incredible injuries, 19 injuries, and a majority of them to key starters on the defensive unit. And so it's been problematic, but again, I don't think that you can really judge him completely. As much as it has looked awful, and as much as there's been times where I've like, I don't know if this is the guy or not. I also would buy into the fact that it is hard to come in. It doesn't matter what the caliber of team is. It is hard to come in and really get your footprint and get established right off the bat in year one. I mean, look at Kalen DeBoer in Alabama. You know, he got handed a Rolls Royce of a program, and they're not even going to make the CFP. And that team's plenty good enough to get there. But again, there's different styles. You got to build everything up into your own image and then see if it works. Unfortunately, in today's day and age, you basically only get 2 or 3 years at max to prove yourself. Otherwise, you're going to be on the chopping block. And yeah, I know a lot of people are calling for Brent Brennan's head. I just don't see it happening this year. And also, I want to go back to the pride point real quick.
Sure.
All right. There might not be a lot of pride in terms of how the fans feel currently about football. But I guarantee you, within that locker room, you know how it is. If you talk to any player, if you talk to your ASU guys last year, like there's not a single person in that locker room that didn't want to beat the absolute crap out of U of A, right? Mm-hmm. And it's going to be the same way for U of A. All those U of A players, it does not matter what we think on the outside. It only matters what's happening on the inside. And I guarantee you, they got everybody and their mom talking about this game, saying, "Man, you know what? It won't be as bad of a season if we can at least get that dub and stop them from going not only to the Big 12 championship, but also to the CFP." That's a pretty sweet, ending to a season, in my opinion.
And especially if I was sitting in your guys' perspective, which, Arizona State has, like the roles have been reversed multiple times throughout the longest rivalry in the history of college football, right? Like there have been times where U of A's up top, ASU's the scrappy underdog. There's times where we're more even. And then there's times like this year where ASU is the one with so much on the line. I refuse to go into this and say that there's zero chance that the Wildcats win this game. I do think it's unlikely based off what we've seen in this season. And over the last decade, the best team usually has won in those situations. But there's talent there. And like you said, there's a drive. I know, because if I was in that situation, and we have been in that situation, I'd want more than anything to end this terrible season with probably the best memory you could. There's no better way to save a season from hell than to upset your rival at the end, especially when there's something on the line. If ASU was middle of the pack in the Big 12, it would still mean something, but it would mean a lot more because you would be beating one of the best teams in the Big 12 and one of the teams that shot at a Big 12 title. And so I'm going into this game and I'm expecting anything. I would still predict ASU to win. I will predict ASU to win. I think they will. But I don't know if I'm going to go in here and just be like, oh, total domination, because that's not always how these games go. Do you feel like, from your perspective, Saul, this is going to be a close one? Do you feel like U of A is going to pull it out? Or is this just written in the stars? ASU is just better and they're dog walking them?
Oh man, it's so hard because U of A has just been so unpredictable this year, like wildly unpredictable. Every game that I go into thinking like, okay, this is how it's going to go. It's like almost been the complete opposite. It's just, I really don't know. In terms of like my feel, I feel like this is what I'll say. I think if Arizona starts out, not the first drive, but they are able to score somewhere between 14 to 20 points in the first half. If they're able to do that, all bets are off in the second half. And I think Arizona could easily win the game. But that's just not what they've shown this season. They've shown that maybe that first drive, they'll be good. And then after that, they fall apart and they can't build any consistency. So I would say my prediction is if Arizona is able to score, let's say 10 points in the first quarter, or at least 14 to 20 in the first half, I think Arizona could either win the game or lose the game very, very close. If they score less than 10 points in the first half, I think they get blown out by 20.
How much of that lack of consistency or predictability do you feel like comes down to coaching?
I think, yeah, I definitely think there's a portion of this that definitely comes down to coaching. I think schematically, and I'll really point to the offense for this one. Schematically speaking, I just don't think that they had the right scheme in place for the pieces that they had. And good coaches will find ways to utilize players in different ways. And I just don't think that this coaching staff has done a very good job of that whatsoever. And which is kind of crazy because I saw Brent Brennan's San Jose State team last year and some of the formations that they used, the creativity that they used, and it's a world of difference from what is going on this year. And I don't know what happened. I don't know if it's the Dino Babers effect or what have you, but it is just not. It's just not been appealing at all, and their inconsistency has been bad. It's also led Noah Fafita to be, uncharacteristically sloppy with the ball. Bad habits are starting to form, things of that nature. So, I think coaching is a huge part of it. But at the end of the day, too, players have a large responsibility, and I think some players have taken the easy way out occasionally on offense, and that doesn't lead to success either.
Well, and it's going to be interesting. You'll be able to tell for sure in a rivalry game if somebody's not giving it 1,000%. Like if there's any game where you're going to be able to sense that, it'll be this one. And I have been, because I'm not as in tune, obviously, with Wildcat stuff as I am Sun Devil stuff. I can't watch your guys' games as closely as I watch ours, but it has been fascinating to me because it feels like there's a simple formula. It feels like it's 1 + 1 = 2. And you're trying to do like a multi-step equation to get to 2, when the simplest answer is usually the best one. To me, and maybe this is just my pea brain, I think it's so simple and I could just flip a switch, but like, don't some of the problems seem like they should have been addressed and fixed and made better over the season? And have you felt like maybe they are, they're just not there yet? Because to me, I'm struggling to find why there hasn't been as much addressing these problems that seem so obvious to everybody, even if your initial game plan wasn't what was working.
Yeah, I think you kind of hit it on the head. There's multiple aspects to that. First, I don't think people realized how significant of a loss Jacob Cowing really was going to be for this team. There was nobody to offset T-Mac whatsoever. The transfers that they got just have not panned out whatsoever. They don't really have a viable number 2. We all thought it was going to be Montana Lemonious Craig, but hell, man, he's been MIA forever. So it's not that. So basically you got T-Mac and then everybody else, and you're hoping that they can do it by committee somehow, some way on the other side, but they just haven't been able to find that good groove. Kean Burnett's probably been their most reliable asset out of the tight end position, but they have not been able to find the pieces necessary to work. And it started all the way back in game number 1, despite the fact that T-Mac went crazy. That was the only time we saw Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt. And if Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt is your starting running back right now, maybe the season turns out a little bit differently because he's a little bit more of a dynamic back, but he's been ineligible all season. And, they don't have a viable number two. Their offensive line has been dinged up pretty bad. So you just have a lot of inconsistency across the board. And it doesn't matter what scheme you try to input. If your line can't block, if your receivers can't get open, and you're only relying on one dude who's getting double, triple teamed every single time, your options are going to be limited and your successes also.
Well, I have a couple follow-up questions on that and still capturing this coaching angle, which I find fascinating. But I do want to remind everybody that this edition of Southwest Bias is brought to you by Branded Bills. And Branded Bills, well, they are the perfect headwear and apparel. I have stolen many of Branded Bills from our salesperson, Max, because they just feel so good. Oh, is that? Of course it's a branded bill.
Of course, baby.
Bookman said, of course. I mean, the feel is so nice, Saul. I don't think I've ever had a hat this comfortable. The rubber, logo on the front too is a fantastic touch. Of course, Saul rocking the U of A one as they do partner with U of A through the hard times as well. Just shows their type of character over there, Branded Bills. And of course, they partner with ASU too. They have truckers, beanies, snapbacks, fitted, and t-shirts. Plus, we have our own custom PHNX headwear that is actually on pre-sale right now. And we also have a Black Friday, Cyber Monday sale. Make sure you guys check that out at our locker. Go phnx.com. Click on the locker tab. We have U of A merch, Sun Devils merch, Suns, Cardinals, D-backs, everything you could possibly imagine on sale. Perfect time for you to get a Branded Bills PHNX crossover hat on pre-sale. Of course, they're out of Mesa, Arizona. And if you want some ASU hats, maybe something different from Branded Bills, you can get 20% off your first order. Head to brandedbills.com. Use code PHNX for that 20% off. And of course, unfortunately, ASU saw the floor of their season last year. It kind of feels like Arizona's at their floor this year. And Saul, it ain't a pretty one. It must not be an Empire Today floor, because if it was an Empire Today floor, you could eat off of it. That's how pristine they are. We have Empire Today flooring in our Studio A. It is perfect. It is held up wonderfully. It was quick, easy on the installation, and it's going to be the same exact thing for you, whether it's your business, whether it's a home, an apartment complex, whatever you're looking to spice up and renovate. Empire Today is here for you, but they're not going to promise you the lowest prices, because anybody in that industry who is guaranteeing you the lowest prices is guaranteeing you bad flooring in your home that they wouldn't put in theirs. However, they do want to give you a good chunk of change off. Schedule a free in-home estimate today, and all listeners of Southwest Bias can receive a $350 off discount when they use promo code PHNX. Some restrictions do apply. See EmpireToday.com/PHNX for details. So, Saul, you mentioned all of the different factors that are going into this season from U of A being a disappointment. Do you feel like, going off of last season, maybe there were some unfair expectations with Brent Brennan, with this staff, with this team to carry over what was a magical season for you guys last year?
Yeah, obviously in hindsight, yes. You think that he got handed the keys to a Ferrari, but it was a Ferrari that had some issues. And I don't think, listen, I think it's kind of like, when we grew up, especially kids that are, male kids, boys, our room is always a mess, right? Yeah. But we know where everything is.
Yes.
Right. And that's kind of how I feel about Jedd Fisch's kind of tenure, where it might have been a mess, but he knew how to work it because it was his mess, and he knew exactly what trigger points, right? Brent Brennan comes in and he picks these pieces up, and it's not the same scheme. It's not the same kind of layout, and trying to figure out exactly how this is all supposed to work in your style and what you're more comfortable coaching has been proven to be difficult. And so I think, I think for a large portion of this, I think there was an unfair expectation placed upon Brent Brennan, but everybody was so excited. Listen, man, you guys feel like this right now. It's almost like you guys feel like, man, we finally got our guy. We are on the right track. You feel like the trajectory is on the up and up. You guys are having a dominant season right now. You're feeling good. The fan base is vibing. You're like, man, is this, for lack of a better word, is the giant finally woke up kind of thing for you guys, right? For us, it was like, man, so tired of being terrible at football, the 70-7 loss and the countless 2, 3, 4 win seasons, that when we finally broke through and got past Oklahoma and Alabama, we were 10-3, and we were like, holy crap, we're here because Jedd Fisch is leading us to the promised land. Then Nick Saban gets fired and everything falls apart. And Yeah, it's just sad, man. It's just really sad.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I wouldn't say I feel bad for you because I don't think I have that bone in my body. But if I put myself in your shoes, I'd be
Like,
devastated.
if you guys got to the Big 12 championship, win or lose, and then you go to a bowl game or whatever, and you guys beat, like, let's just say you guys played Alabama and beat Alabama, right? You guys were all vibing, feeling good, and then Kenny took off to go take like Florida State or
I'd be
whatever
devastated.
job, like you guys. Oh yeah, it would be absolute chaos, and you guys would know exactly how we felt. So, yeah, it's not great.
So the final question, I know I asked you, is Brent Brennan coaching for his job tomorrow? You said you don't think so. Do you feel like he should be coaching for his job? Do you feel like he's earned or deserves a second, maybe a third year? Because you're kind of at this weird culmination point with Brennan where if you're going to continue to commit, I feel like you can't half-ass it, right? You can't, commit for half of a season or one more season. I think you got to let him play it out for this year, the next year that is, and then a third year as well to really give him a chance to build something. So are you at the point where you feel like, maybe this Saturday should be it, maybe regardless of result, and try to just move on? Or are you like, you know what, let's just ride this out. Let's see what happens.
Yeah, I think right now I'm at the point where I'm willing to give him another year.
Okay.
And it might be to our own detriment. Like it might be. We might very well not even win a game next year, based on the trajectory of or the trends. But again, I think football's such a unique sport that you have to get your guys in there, and you have to get the kind of DNA that you want in there. And Brent Brennan, this is the reason why Brent Brennan will get an extra shot. He's kind of like our Kenny Dillingham. He's a U of A guy. He loves this program. He bleeds this program. He wants this program to succeed. And he's had history with athletics. He's had history in the football program under Tomey. Like, there's a lot of things that are going into this about Brent Brennan, the person, as opposed to just Brent Brennan, the football coach. And on paper, if Brent Brennan had a 10-3 season, being who he is, everybody would be absolutely stoked and excited because he's our guy, right? It just hasn't worked out that way. I think he deserves a second chance. I do. I think he deserves a second season, maybe even a third. But you got to see improvement. You got to see some development. You got to see if you listen, he could go 5-7 next year, but that 5-7 has got to be like undeniably like we improved across the board. We were consistent. We lost some heartbreakers, those kind of things. You can't have a 2 or 3 win season next year. You guys saw that last year when you guys only won a couple games. Like, it was tough. But there's a thumbs up.
It was tough.
It was tough. But you guys played hard from start to finish. You guys played hard, and now you're coming into this season and you're reaping the benefits of that mentality going into this season. I haven't seen this team play like that with their hair on fire. That's my concern. But can he take whatever went wrong this year, manipulate it, and make it better going into next season by adding some? And listen, with the transfer portal, anything there, you could flip the script so easily in today's world. So I'm excited.
Well, only time will tell. But before we get to next season, got to take care of business of this season. It's Wildcats and it's Sun Devils. Saturday kickoff at 1:30. If you're listening to this before that, there will be a post-game show from the Wildcats side and from the Sun Devils side. And all of that is right here on PHNX Sports. What's up?
I have one more thing just to say, okay?
Please.
Listen, I've obviously I made some preseason predictions that were absolutely spot on about you guys. I just want to put that on the record, okay? I said you guys
said Big 12 championship.
I literally said you guys would be in every single game in the fourth quarter outside of maybe 1 or 2. You guys were not in 1 or 2 of those games, Texas Tech and Cincinnati. Outside of that, you guys have been in every single game and won every single game. I would be happy if you guys won this game, and not that I would be happy that you guys beat us, but I would be happy for you guys because you guys deserve it. Listen, the Sun Devils pod has gone through 500 yards of crap just to get to this point. They're the Andy Dufresne of sports right now, and now they're coming out clean on the other side. Happy for you, but if you lose tomorrow, if you lose against us Arizona Wildcats, us lowly Arizona Wildcats, who have been the doormat of the Big 12 talking points, group chats, Facebook mess, like we have been just drugged, right? If you lose, you might not ever hear the end end of it.
No,
so
I wouldn't blame
the pressure's really on you guys.
Yeah. 100%. The tables have turned, and it's in the best way and the worst way possible. ASU has everything to lose. U of A has nothing to lose. If we go in and we dominate you guys in Tucson, everybody's going to say, well, that's exactly what you were supposed to do. But you know what, man? If this team isn't the type of team that can go in and dominate you this Saturday, then they're not the type of team that would win the Big 12 championship. And you know,
Rivalry, you can't say that about Rivalry.
No, but what I'm saying right now is like I'm at the point where I think in the past I would be nervous. In the past, I'd be nervous about what you just said. The fact that there are these expectations, the fact that, you know, there really is so much on the line for ASU and nothing on the line for U of A. But because of the confidence I have in how this team has been prepared every week this season, the voices that they have leading them, and not just in a leadership perspective, from an actual football coaching perspective about exploiting your weaknesses and knowing your game plan, you know, I'm at the point where I don't think that you need to just dominate 70-7, but I think if you don't walk away with a convincing victory, I'd be surprised at this point. And it's a rivalry, so I think it'd be an entertaining game. I think you guys are going to make us sweat a little bit at a certain point, but when it comes down to it in the fourth quarter, if you can't put it away and feel rather confident about it, I'll be a little bit surprised. But that's why you play the game, Saul. That's why we love this sport, because you never know.
If you guys don't turn the ball over, I'd be shocked if we ended up winning.
Yeah, I think it's only way that ASU has lost this season is they've gotten in their own way, and then they didn't have their starting quarterback. Only one of those is on the table on Saturday. You just can't get in your own way. That's it. Yeah. If ASU doesn't get in their own way against Texas Tech, they have one loss on the season. Yeah. And
it makes sure, you know, at the end of the game, if it's a close game, you guys don't take a 50-yard drop, you know, kneel down and then throw the ball out of bounds for a helmet.
I don't know. It's kind of our signature move. It's kind of our signature move, Saul.
Man, everybody's on Matt Eberflus. For the way that clock management was run yesterday, I'm like, bro, hey, BYU would have caught that Hail Mary. You'd have talked about one of the ultimate game management errors of all time.
Well, if ifs were fifths, we'd all be drunk, Saul, and that ain't happened. So, listen, I'm going to stop this before you compare Kenny Dillingham to Matt Eberflus again, because that's just downright disrespectful. You can follow Saul at Saul_Bookman. He's doing McHale Madness, covering U of A hoops right here on PHNX Sports, of course, doing other things with All City. Make sure you show him some love. Of course, check out the Wildcats show at PHNX_Wildcats. They, of course, doing post games for basketball, football, everything in between. The best place to keep up with all the college athletics here in Arizona is right here on PHNX Sports, plus all the Pro One, Suns, Cards, Diamondbacks. We still got a hockey show. We're going to be covering Mercury still. We still have Rising. We do everything here on PHNX Sports. Hit that subscribe button. Turn your notifications on. And Saul, I'll see you on the other side of Hate Week, man.
We'll see you then, man.
Get that stuff out of here. It's Southwest Bias.